Ever thrown a party that got a bit out of hand? Well, Emperor Nero took it to a whole new level. We're talking about a party so epic, it literally burned Rome to the ground, and that was just the beginning of his wild ride. Let me introduce you to ancient Rome's most controversial rock star, Nero. Imagine a teenager who suddenly gets handed the keys to the world's biggest empire, along with unlimited money and zero supervision. Yeah, that's Nero at age 16. This guy turned the royal palace into his personal playground, throwing parties that would make modern celebrities blush. We're talking gold-plated everything, exotic animals roaming around, and fountains flowing with wine instead of water. He'd show up to his own parties dressed as different characters, force guests to listen to his 6-hour poetry readings, and wouldn't let anyone leave until he finished performing. Talk about a demanding host. But here's the wild part. This was just the warm-up act for what would become history's most infamous reign. After Rome's Great Fire, Nero saw an opportunity to build his dream home. And boy, did he dream big. The Domus Aurea, or Golden House, was basically an ancient Roman mega-mansion on steroids. We're talking about a palace so massive it covered 3 of Rome's 7 hills. The entrance hall, big enough to fit a 120-foot bronze statue of Nero himself. This place had rotating dining rooms that sprayed perfume on guests, artificial lakes, and entire fields and vineyards inside the city. The ceilings were covered in ivory panels that would slide open to shower guests with rose petals. And true to its name, there was so much gold on the walls that people said it hurt their eyes to look at it. Talk about a flex. Rome, 64 AD. Picture a hot summer night that's about to get way hotter. The fire started in some shops near the Circus Maximus, you know, where they held the chariot races. But this wasn't your average, oops, I left the candle burning situation. The flames spread faster than gossip in a small town, jumping from building to building like a deadly game of hopscotch. Ancient Rome was basically a giant fire hazard waiting to happen. Narrow streets, wooden buildings stacked on top of each other, and absolutely zero building codes. The fire raged for 6 days straight, turning Rome's crowded neighborhoods into a massive inferno. People were running through the streets, carrying whatever they could save, while others watched their entire lives go up in smoke. And where was Nero during all this? According to some seriously salty historians, he was on his roof, playing his lyre and singing about the destruction of Troy. Talk about reading the room wrong. Here's the thing about Nero's famous fiddling. It's the ancient world's biggest fake news story. First off, fiddles hadn't even been invented yet. What Nero actually played was the lyre, kind of like a mini harp. But here's where it gets interesting. While Rome was burning, Nero was actually in Antium, about 35 miles away. When he heard about the fire, he raced back to Rome and spent days organizing relief efforts, opening his palaces to homeless citizens, and even getting his hands dirty helping to fight the flames. So why did everyone say he fiddled? Simple. Nero had tons of enemies in the Senate who loved painting him as this cartoon villain. They couldn't resist turning Emperor Plays music into Emperor Plays concert while Rome burns. Talk about a PR nightmare. When the smoke cleared, Nero needed someone to blame, and fast. His brilliant solution? Point the finger at Rome's Christians. Smart move, right? Wrong. He accused them of starting the fire, and his punishment was, let's say, creative. He turned Christians into human torches to light up his garden parties, wrapped them in animal skins and threw them to wild dogs. Real charming guy. But here's the thing, nobody was buying it. Romans weren't stupid. They saw right through his blame game, especially when Nero started building his massive golden palace on the freshly barbecued real estate. It's like burning down your apartment building and then building a mansion in its place. Not exactly subtle, my dude. After the flames died down, Rome looked like a giant had used it as an ashtray. But Nero, between his wild parties and palace building, actually came up with some pretty smart ideas for the rebuild. He created Rome's first building codes. No more wooden buildings packed together like sardines. Streets got wider, buildings got shorter, and everything had to be fireproof. He even added a cool new feature, covered porticos in front of apartment blocks to shield people from the sun, or, falling debris. The rebuild was massive. Imagine trying to fix an entire city while 3 million people are giving you the side eye. Nero threw money at the problem like a rapper in a music video, but this time he might have actually done something right. Let's talk about Nero's spending habits. This guy treated Rome's treasury like a teenager with their parents' credit card. He blew through cash faster than a TikTok star with a shopping addiction. We're talking gold-plated everything, importing exotic snow from mountains for his summer drinks and spending the equivalent of millions just on fancy rope for his theater shows. He loved giving away money to random people. Sounds nice, right? But when you're emptying an entire empire's bank account to fund your latest party idea, that's a problem. By 68 AD, Rome was so broke that soldiers weren't getting paid and people were literally melting down statues to make coins. Nero's solution? He just made the coins smaller and mixed in cheaper metals. Classic rich kid move. You can only push people so far before they snap, and Rome was reaching its breaking point. The nobles were furious about their donated land for Nero's palace. Soldiers were getting paid in basically fake money, and regular folks couldn't afford bread anymore. Then Nero announced his biggest project yet. He wanted to dig a canal through Greece. With what money? Everyone's last nerve. The provinces started rebelling, governors began plotting, and the Praetorian Guard, basically Nero's bodyguards, decided they'd rather switch teams than keep protecting this walking disaster. When Nero heard the Senate had declared him a public enemy, he did what any responsible emperor would do. He ran away and hid in a ditch. Talk about going out with a whimper. Okay, so it's 68 AD and Nero's finally run out of plot armor. His loyal guards, gone. His friends, ghosted him. Even his last-ditch hideout was literally a ditch. As armies closed in, Nero gave us history's most extra death scene. Standing there with his dagger, he famously cried, "What an artist dies in me," because of course his last words had to be a theater reference. But he couldn't even stab himself properly. He had to ask his secretary for help. Talk about stage fright. The guy who lived like a rock star died like a failed actor at an audition. And just like that, Rome's original party boy checked out at age 30, leaving behind a legacy of chaos, empty bank accounts, and some seriously strict fire codes. You might think Nero's wild reign was just ancient history's craziest reality show, but this guy accidentally changed Rome forever. Those building codes he created, they became the blueprint for modern city planning. His financial disasters taught future emperors valuable lessons about not treating the treasury like their personal piggy bank. And get this, Romans loved him so much, or feared him so deeply, that 3 fake Neros popped up after his death, each claiming to be the real deal. Even centuries later, we're still using the phrase "fiddling while Rome burns" to describe leaders who party through a crisis. Nero might have been the ultimate chaos emperor, but he left a mark on history that's lasted way longer than his golden palace ever did. Thanks for joining me on this wild ride through Nero's chaotic reign. If you enjoyed this historical party gone wrong, smash that like button and subscribe for more ancient drama. Share with your friends, especially that one who always goes overboard at parties.